Matcha white chocolate cookies. I think generally we miss a lot of big opportunities when it comes to baking cookies at home. We tend to stick to the family favorites, the ones that your parents made, the ones that your grandparents made. You might even be following the same handwritten recipe that's been passed down for generations. But we're missing the chance to introduce some really fun flavors, such as the earthy, grassy character of matcha green tea. I'm going to show you how I make matcha white chocolate cookies, but to pair with it, I'm going to pass on the cold glass of milk and go with the quintessential American Pale Ale on this episode of Bacon to Brew. I'll get started by making my cookie dough. I'm taking 70 grams each of granulated white sugar and brown sugar. And I'll add half a cup of softened butter, which is conveniently exactly one stick. I'll move this to my mixer fitted with the paddle attachment, and I'll continue to mix until all the sugar is dissolved into the butter and the mixture is nice and creamy. I could just let this go and move on to my dry ingredients. I'll use 150 grams of all-purpose flour. I'm actually substituting 1-to-1 gluten-free flour. I find with cookies I could get away with using gluten-free flour because it has the proper proportions of flour and xanthan gum and everything else needed to hold gluten-free ingredients together. I'm also using 2 tablespoons of matcha powder, which is a lot, but I really want to highlight that earthy flavor. I'll also add half a teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. I'll just give it a whisk until everything is combined. And we'll put that aside while we check on our wet ingredients. The butter and sugar look sufficiently creamed, so I'm just going to scrape down the walls and continue mixing while I add 2 eggs. I thought it would look cool to crack the eggs one-handed while the mixer is still running, but that looked pretty awkward. But at least I have another egg to redeem myself. So I'll try that again, and you know what? Maybe next time I should just try cracking the eggs into a separate bowl. I'll also add half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Once everything's fully mixed, I'll slow the speed of the mixer down and slowly start to add my dry ingredients. I'm being careful not to overmix, which would be really critical if I was using flour that had gluten. I'll get the last of my dry ingredients in here, scrape down the sides, and once everything's fully incorporated, then all I have to do is add the white chocolate chips. Now, before we add our white chocolate chips, I want to take a moment to read the label because there's something interesting in the ingredients. Or rather, I should say there's something interesting omitted from the ingredients, and that's any sort of cocoa product whatsoever. Now, white chocolate was typically cocoa butter, so it's the fat extracted from the chocolate. It doesn't have the roasted quality that something like a dark chocolate would. But many products now just use other sources of fat that are mixed with sugar and vanilla. Now, does this make a difference in the final product? Maybe not, because ultimately you're just going to be eating fat, sugar, and vanilla. But I like to look at the labels and find the real thing, and actually looking for cocoa butter in the ingredients. So just something to be aware of when you're looking for white chocolate chips. And that'll be a total of 1 cup of chocolate chips, which I'll add and then nearly immediately turn off the mixer. Then scrape off anything that's stuck to the paddle or eat it directly off the paddle as if you were a child. I'll just loosen up anything that's stuck to the side of the bowl, and I'll wrap this up and put it in the refrigerator for at least an hour. Then prepare a sheet tray with parchment paper or a silicone mat. And I should get about 12 cookies out of this. I'm going to use a spring-loaded ice cream scoop to portion them out evenly. I'm making sure to give them room to expand. I think 6 cookies per tray is about right. I'll wrap these up and put them in the fridge to chill once more, and prepare the second tray. The reason for chilling is to help solidify the butter. If the butter is too warm, it'll spread before the cookie is set, creating very thin cookies. These will go into a 350-degree oven for about 12 minutes. After removing them, they're still a little malleable, so it's a good opportunity to take a ring mold and just shape it real quick to make them even circles. Then I'm going to let them sit on the baking tray for a minute before moving them to a cooling rack, just so they solidify enough to be easier to move. And I'll put them on a cooling rack, but not for too long because there's nothing quite like a warm cookie fresh out of the oven. And there it is, Matcha White Chocolate Cookies. An earthy, grassy flavor of matcha green tea, along with the creamy vanilla flavor of white chocolate. And fresh out of the oven, these are so soft. This may be an unpopular opinion, but a cold glass of milk is overrated. I'd prefer a pale ale from one of the breweries that helped start the American craft beer revolution, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Sierra Nevada helped jumpstart the craft beer revolution in America. They started brewing pale ale in 1980. If you think about what the beer was like in America in 1980, it was all pale American lager. So brewing a pale ale was a big step. But what really changed the brewing industry was using one special ingredient, and that's a hop variety produced in the Pacific Northwest called Cascade. Cascade helped define and set the standard for what American craft beer is going to taste like moving forward, because compared to the English counterparts, the hop just tasted different. It was more citrusy and piney with aromas like grapefruit zest. And now there's more and more hop varieties being cultivated every year, so it's hard to go to a brew pub and not seeing IPAs brewed with Mosaic, Amarillo, Citra, Galaxy, Gemini, Turbo, Malibu. Some of those might be American Gladiators. But the bottom line is craft beer in America was defined by hop flavor and aroma. And I think that's why it pairs so well with these cookies, because the flavor of matcha reminds me of a dry hops character. It's grassy and earthy, but that's not the only reason why these cookies pair so well with the beer. White chocolate is a surprisingly good pairing. I didn't realize how good white chocolate and pale ales were together until I went to a beer and chocolate pairing event, and I thought that was the domain of stouts and porters, beer that had a roasted character to it. But remember, white chocolate doesn't have that roast character, but it does have this rich cocoa butter flavor. And I think that's why you need something that's dry and you have the bitterness of the hops that'll help cut through the fat in the white chocolate chips. Thank you for watching. I encourage you to try these cookies at home. Matcha is such a fun flavor to introduce to your baking. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and join me next time when I take another one of my favorite beers and try to bake the perfect pairing.